Hi y'all, it's Emily with Emily Talks. Welcome back. I really appreciate every time that you come back to spend some time with me. Today I am going to talk about some introspection that I did because I thought it was kind of cool. I'm sure that there's tons of books on this stuff, but I feel like talking about things from my own personal perspective and how I was able to think about and arrive at particular conclusions, as I've said a bunch of times in my videos. If I experience it, that means there's tons of people out there who are experiencing the same thing. And since you're here for a mental health journey with me, I'm sure that this is something that very possibly you experience as well. So, I was out and about today in town, and I had an interaction with somebody that I've seen multiple times who's kind of a jerk. This person just can make things in my life very difficult. And I am interact with this person in a professional capacity, where, it's an interaction that I can't really get around because, it's part of a service that I partake in. And in order to tackle an issue that I have because of this person's rudeness that makes it difficult for me to partake in this particular service, I thought in my mind about, usually I deal with those situations by, kill them with kindness, and not in a kill them way, but in a let me make this a positive experience for this person, and that so that they associate me with positivity, and that we don't continue to run into this issue. So as soon as I started going down that line of thought, my brain immediately kicked into, maybe that person is going to start to like me romantically. And it's not even necessarily that that's where my mind, or, where my intentions are at. It's just something that my mind threw out there at me. And it had me reflecting and introspecting at that moment how many times I've listened to that particular message and followed through on it. And I thought, well, why don't I feel this weird attraction to other people who are not like this? And it gave me some really great moments of aha. So I'm going to go over that with you. So this video today is going to be on codependent attraction. So the particular thing that I struggle with or have struggled with right now, I am choosing to just be on my own, and I'm pretty settled into that decision for now, because I think that it's so important for me to keep focusing on myself and to keep moving forward, to be there for myself and for my son. So this is looking back more on previous situations that I often felt attracted to, and would pursue people who were emotionally unavailable and just mean. And I felt deep attraction for them. And where does that come from? It comes from my people pleasing, and that was one of my maladaptive coping mechanisms to keep myself safe and cared for as a child. The particular role that I took on, because I have 5 siblings, the particular role that, or the way that I dealt with what was going on in my childhood was to fawn, was to be an emotional caretaker, and to make myself likable, make myself whoever I needed to be in that moment. which is incredibly insincere. I ran into, once I became an adult, I didn't really have a lot of my own opinions, and my opinions were easily swayed because I felt scared of opposing people. I, had made it part of my identity to be whoever I perceived the people around me wanted me to be, which was not a reflection on the people around me as an adult. It was definitely a reflection on myself, and it made it very hard for me to have relationships and have, even on a basic level, if you think about a workplace relationship or a relationship with your customers or clients, a relationship with my customers or clients, it's really inappropriate to notice somebody trying to fawn over you for no reason. And that's what I was doing. And, coming into a place of romantic interest in particular. So when I interact with people who are well adjusted and able to have healthy communication, they healthfully communicate with me what their level of interest is. I would have men who were stable, nice, gentle, express interest in me, and I didn't feel anything toward them. And I mean, this is something that is a stereotypical problem. So I really don't want to feed into any stereotypes. I want to talk about particularly my experience, and I do not want others to extrapolate and assume that this must be experiences for other women or anything along these lines. I just want to talk toward my experience and toward if people are able to connect with my experience. If you are seeing parallels between who I am and what I did and others, this is not what this video is about. What I would recommend is if you see parallels between myself and somebody to whom you're attracted or whatever, look more about ways to healthily communicate your interest and looking for that partner who is going to be able to healthily engage with you in that interest instead of looking to change anyone. Because my problem is that I want to change other people, and that's what I'm going to be talking about. And I didn't pursue the right people for the right reasons. And if you are seeing that there's a parallel between myself and someone you're interested in, that shows that that person is not healthy. They're not in a place for relationships, and you're barking up the wrong tree. So, I mean, I don't know if I'm in a place to tell you what to do per se, but I just really want to caution people that codependence is really, really destructive. And I'm about to tell you about my codependent behaviors. So please, please be aware that I'm talking about a very unhealthy person, a very unhealthy expression of attraction for myself and sexual interest. So if you see these patterns or behavior in others, please don't think of it as I know more about what's going on here and I could help that person change. No, this is absolutely codependence. That person needs to help themselves just as I need to help myself, just as you need to help yourself if you are in a place where you need to learn more about healthy relationships and interdependence versus codependence. So that being said, that out of the way that I was interested in people around me is if, somebody showed a genuine interest, that would brush up a lot on my own sense of self-disgust and feeling like I wasn't good enough as I was. So if anybody just liked me as I was, there could be a million different ways that I rationalized it, but I think that it was kind of a pre-rational thing, that it was precognitive, that it was so part of my baseline radical ideas, the root, the bottom principles of how I judged things and how I sorted information, that I wasn't able to connect with people who were healthfully expressing interest. And I often felt uninspired by them. I often felt condescending toward them. Like, why would this person, like, I just really felt like this person doesn't have a growth mindset, was often what I told myself. And then, people that I was truly attracted to, either they clearly and healthily expressed their disinterest, and then I felt horrible about myself, or they were the other side to my codependency, where they were emotionally unavailable, not communicating their interests or needs, and they became a challenge for me. And I went into this mindset of first, the first thing that drew me was I feel unsafe in this situation, and I need to kick in my skills of making this person feel comfortable, cared for, that they don't have to be responsible for their own emotions or their own actions, because they can lean on me to help bring them a brighter perspective, or bring them a smile, or make them feel fun in their lives, or lightness in their lives, like that sense of joy. So when it comes down to who I was attracted to, it tied in exactly into the way that I had operated as a child, was needing to feel safe in my environment by taking on the responsibility for the emotions and interactions of those around me, so that I could not have to feel fear of their feelings or their behaviors, or the way that they perceived the world in that moment. So the thing that's unhealthy about that is that the people who, the men who would be interested in that kind of relationship, were men that did not have that maturity to express their interests as they were, right? They were men that kept their motives hidden, or were not able to speak properly about what they wanted. And I would have to tease that out of them and create the relationship that I wanted out of that. And there was a sense of power that would come from that a sense of efficacy in a way, that I have achieved something that I wanted. Obviously, though, it came from somebody who did not have healthy interpersonal skills to be able to talk about what their own boundaries are, what their own interests were. And, as I was thinking through this, it also made me think of the converse, that, why did I not go for other people that excited me in that way? And it was mostly because healthily adjusted people could tell me outright if there was interest or not, and communicate that with me. And that felt threatening and to me, if it was somebody that excited me, as far as like being able to communicate with me on an intellectual and philosophical level, being able to compete with me on an economic level, because I was pretty fierce. I still am fierce in many ways about my productivity, which is sort of funny because I am not working as I pursue disability due to the experiences that I have. So it was just a great moment of introspection there, that where does that codependent attraction start and come from? And like I said, I know that there's probably tons of material that already talks about this, but to just kind of observe myself going through those motions of feeling that stir of excitement, even though that isn't on my mind, like particularly with this person, there's no way that I'll be interested in somebody like that. And then yet my mind just kind of went there. I want to share another thing from today as well about my mind going there, whether or not I intend it. So yesterday was a pretty tough day. I, had some news come around about things that I'm working on that really felt like a setback. And, trying to work with my son in particular, when I'm having these types of days where it's really hard for me to even get together the strength and organization within my brain and to minimize, that stimulation overload. I talked about that in my short on neurodivergent overstimulation. When I'm going through a day like that, and then when interacting with my son is like pulling teeth, it's so tough because he's super invested in not taking responsibility for himself, both because that's just not where his maturity is at yet. Like, he doesn't have the maturity of responsibility, and myself as the parent, as the grown-up, is the one that needs to help him and give them that stability so that he could be able to navigate life. But where I'm at, there's a big deficit, and that's something that I need to learn about, giving myself more stability and consistency so that I could be there for Marcus, or even, doing distress tolerance skills with him, so that we can approach a situation together. Because, just like if I had diabetes and it was just Mark and myself, and I needed to get insulin shots, and sometimes I would have a crisis where he would need to help, or like an EpiPen or something like that, because it's just he and I. Although, I don't want to put Mark, my son, in a situation where he has to care for me as and reverse that role of parent and child. He still can be part of the effort to have a successful home and a successful household, and give me that shot of EpiPen or that shot of insulin, in the sense of helping out, working together on sensory overload, and knowing that it's not his fault, but that working together is going to help us both do better, instead of fighting me. Because, when he shuts down about simple things like doing the dishes, he just shuts down. It's so tough for me to deal with. And, I just need to be like, look, man, being here for each other is so much bigger and more important than you investing in upset or investing in, not taking care of this home and taking care of yourself. I don't want to fight you every time I talk to you about going into the shower where you dilly-dally and do all this other kind of crap. Go into the shower. because that's what's going to help our family move forward, versus, putting more pressure and more pressure and more pressure on me to go around and keep you on track and keep you on task. Pushes me into a place where I'm not able to take care of things that I really need to take care of as the grown-up and as the parent in this situation, when I have to look after you for things that you should be responsible for. So, I just had a really, really tough day yesterday between the news that I received, and the responsibilities that places on me, coupled with Mark's, typical child pushback. So today, due to that, I was really, really overstimulated today. And I chose to go to my community center regardless, which also put me, in a place where I was interacting with that person who's incredibly rude and unthoughtful and just so self-centered to the point of causing problems in other people's days. So while I was at my community center, versus staying inside and isolating and trying not to have to deal with these distressing feelings, we were making a veggie platters for an event that's going on this evening that I'm going to be part of with my son. And there were 3 different stations of people making these platters, myself included. I was one of the stations, with a large knife and a small knife. And every time that my eyes went past a knife, images would flash through my head of mutilation. And I have to be very, very careful in my videos, because YouTube flags this crap, and it's just so unhelpful. The visibility that you and I need to help ourselves through these situations, and to be candid about these situations, and to work with each other to create visibility, but also helpful skills, and build each other up and create a space for ourselves among people who don't have these types of struggles, so that they understand what this looks like. I don't know. I'm really frustrated about how careful I have to tiptoe around certain things like this. And, on any of the videos like this, I'm going to link into the description ways that you can receive help. 988, that's a suicide hotline that you can talk to. And same thing for self-mutilation. If you're struggling with thoughts like that, there's ways to get help, and you don't have to feel suicidal in order to reach out for help. So, I was just in this place where, even though my intentions aren't there, my mind is flashing images through my head, and this sense of urgency inside of me to do things to my body. And the images are pretty graphic. When I first started having images like this come into my head is when I was pregnant with my son. No, actually, it was when I was in college, and I couldn't go past a balcony without seeing myself, and then seeing myself on the ground, and it was really, really graphic. And at the time, I couldn't sort out the difference between intention and the intrusive thoughts. So I'm over at the community center, really overwhelmed. There's knives all around. And I had to really give myself props and praise and positive feedback. Thinking back, I haven't talked about putting the bean into the jar, but the purpose of me going through the DBT skills that I am, again, DBT workbook is going to be in the description. The purpose of going through these skills is to rewire my brain and create these neural networks between the outside stimulus and the way that I feel and think. right? So today was a lot of outside stimulus between the knives and people moving around me and trying to keep up with conversations. And, I was talking to my sister today, as well as thinking about how to upload these videos. I still haven't posted my interview with Monica, but it is currently uploading as we speak right now. So even before y'all see this video, it'll already be up. It'll already be shared to Facebook. So there's all of this stimulus happening. And then on the other hand, on the other end is my brain lighting up with shutting down dissociation, harmful thoughts, intrusive thoughts. And I want to change that sense of, that desire to run away, to isolate, to shut down. I want to change that. So the bean in the jar right here, the bean represents me taking all of that positivity and love and intention and narrowing it down to this idea of a bean and thinking of a bean, like physical representation, because this, thinking of what something looks like, lights up a particular place. I don't know where your visual part is in your brain, but it lights up a specific place in your brain, and you kind of connect everything together very, very intentionally and mindfully. And I take that bean and I put it in a jar, and I label the jar the thing that I want to see change in my life. So today, how I put my bean into the jar is I praised myself, and I talked to my community friends who know about what my intentions are. I talked to them about the thing that I was experiencing and how proud I was of being out in the community versus isolating. And many of the people within the community have the same experiences as myself. So there's a sense of belonging. I am looking forward to an interview that I have coming up from someone that does one of these types of community centers, and is able to talk more about how either you can find a community center like this, or you can support a community center like this if you want to be able to help more people like myself in your community. Or just if you're like me and very thoughtful and mindful, how you can be active within those community centers to help yourself and to connect with others who also need that help. I have found people in my community center that they desperately need help, like, back and forth between themselves and myself to team together and become better people. Because typically in these types of environments, when you struggle this much, a lot of times what I would run into is that other people that I would try to connect with in my community would be like in active addiction, for instance. And it's really tough because it's kind of a cesspool of codependence and really toxic relationships. But community centers of this type, which the interview will be coming, are very incredibly helpful. They are life-changing. So I was in this community center environment, and I was able to share with my fellow peers what my experience was, and we gave each other high fives, we gave each other hugs, to help strengthen and put that bean in the jar of, I am not isolating today. I went and I helped cut up those veggie platters, and I didn't hurt myself. I'm not really a person who does self-mutilation regardless. But the intrusive thoughts are something that I deeply struggle with for a long time. When I was pregnant with my son, because the immense amount of distress that I was going through, and at the time I was in an abusive situation, so I was in active abuse at that time. I would see anywhere that I went, if there was a corner on a table, I would see myself falling on the table, that the table would slice open my belly, and that my son would fall out. And I would just be bending over, hyperventilating, trying to pull my son back into my belly, but it wasn't actually physically happening. And this is the kind of stuff that I deal with that has sent me to live in my bed. It's really, really hard to understand where, like, why would you ever live in your bed? That's such a cop-out on life. That's so, how could you abandon your life like that? How could you abandon your son like that? It's from stuff like this, excuse my language, before it even gets out. I'm going to try to keep my stuff clean so that I can stay monetized, y'all. Not that I'm anywhere near monetization. That's what this looks like. That is what goes on in my brain that pushes me away from people and pushes me into myself, into my couch, into just not moving, because I end up like, walking over to my own kitchen and doing dinner. Sometimes, especially with hot stove, hot oven, hot water, knives, boiling water. There's a lot of different things. Closing cabinets. There's a lot of things that could cause me physical damage that my brain will flash before me over and over and over. And that's what these distress tolerance things are for, because I could drug myself out of it, but you know what I would be? Comatose. I took a medication once upon a time. Sorry, I don't remember if it was my son or my nephew who used to say, "One upon a time." So I wanted to say that. One upon a time, I was on Abilify, and my symptoms went away, but I literally couldn't balance because of how strong the medications were. And shortly after I had my son, I was trying to get onto the right kind of meds, and my grip wouldn't work. I physically couldn't pick up my infant because of, just how strong these drugs are, to try to stop these really extreme symptoms. Usually just turn off my brain altogether. It's either my brain is off or I have to deal with these things. Or you're into the realm of benzos, which that's like Xanax or whatever, and that is incredibly addictive. It's not really prescribed nowadays. Other drugs are out there that they say deal with these kinds of things, but they're really silly. They're like, blood pressure medications and stuff like that. And to me, they're just absolute garbage. If they work for you, great. And please don't let this type of message deter you from seeking medication, because it does help. I'm on a great regimen of medication. Please do not let this message deter you. The thing is that I also must deploy the skills. Skills plus medication is what's going to get me on the other side of this. So I just want to be very clear for those who don't have this experience, A, what it looks like, and B, what the treatment looks like. And treatment, when I share these distress tolerance skills, y'all, hi, my name is Emily. I am sitting in the chair, looking at my phone with the little tiny dot of the camera and talking to you, and I am safe. Distress tolerance skills, I will do a short on I am safe today, because that's a great skill. They're essential. I need these skills because I deal with stuff like walking into a room with people that I love and care for, and that make me feel wonderful in a place that I feel safe. And it pops into my head these graphic, horrible images, and it out of, that energy that I talk about, shining a beautiful energy out to others that comes from within myself, that energy turns into something that just wants to launch me forward into hurting myself. And it is not rational. It's not intentional. Like, my intentions aren't even there. I just get this urge inside of me that it's like a zap, it's It's like somebody plugged an electrical plug into myself, and I get this, I don't know, like, you know how sometimes when you put your hand up to something that's hot and your hand jerks away before your brain even says jerk your hand away? That's kind of how this stuff comes through into my brain, is that it's there. I feel the urge in my limbs before I even really am able to think of anything. And then after the urge is already there and the images are there, kind of in that order, then my brain starts processing it rationally and then talking, like giving words to it. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what's going on here? And then I feel distress. So y'all, I can't tell you enough about how intense and difficult these experiences are, but also how essential it is that I change, and what that struggle to be outside of my house and taking care of things, how absolutely, like, what is the thing that's driving me toward isolation and shutting down. That thing is not small, it's significant, and it's powerful. And today I give myself a small win. I praise myself for being out in my community, for being with as I experienced those different things, for observing myself experiencing them instead of owning those as my brain is broken or whatever. I praise myself for praising myself, for instead of like hiding it and being upset or saying I need to withdraw, I took the time to say thank you to myself for being brave. And even that, stepping back and observing myself being brave, I praise myself for that because I want to keep moving forward. So these are two separate messages here. One about, what does codependent attraction look like? And what does distress tolerance and motion look like, during immense distress, and being intentional look like. I hope that you connected in any way with these, or that this is going to help you move forward, or perhaps this will help you to have some insight into what this kind of extreme distress looks like in action. I want to create a world where this is recognized. People with epilepsy, they used to say that they were possessed by devils. I feel like there's really not a lot of knowledge about what it is that I experience. There's not a lot of science and understanding around it. And I want to change that. And this is me changing it. This is me putting my imprint on the world and putting the world on a path that I think is important. It's me finding that lever long enough to, move it on my own and move the entire world. Thank you for being with me on this journey. Namaste, my friends.